So, we are going to be getting a brand new expansion here in Legends of Runeterra, Fate's Voyage Beyond. It's going to introduce 3 brand new champions, and it's going to introduce a bunch of new cards. We're just going to dive right into it, so make sure you hit that like button, and let's begin. So, first off, we have Morgana, the Queen. 5 mana, 3/4, Targon and Demacia, one of the first multi-region champs we've had that's not related to Bandle City. She has lifesteal, which is also the first champ that just baseline has lifesteal, to my knowledge. She has the play effect of curse an enemy with shackles twice. We will talk about curses in a minute here, but her level up criteria is that you have targeted units 8+ times. So this is not the first Targon champ that needs to target stuff, as we have Pantheon. However, Pantheon needs to target stuff each different turn. She is just, you could do all 8 in one turn if you wanted to. Once you level her up, though, you then have her level 2 effect. She still has curse an enemy with shackles twice, but now on attack, she curses the strongest enemy that isn't cursed with shackles and deals 3 damage to cursed enemies and 2 to the enemy nexus. So as you're cursing stuff, she's just going to be pumping out a ton of damage. So if you have a way to just keep rallying her, you're going to fill your opponent's hand up with miscellaneous cards, because I think now is probably a good time to talk about the curses. So curses are debuffs in the form of cards placed into the opponent's hands. So in the example of Morgana here, when you play her, you pick an enemy unit, and it will curse it twice with shackles. So that will create 2 cards in hand that are called shackles, and they are a 2 mana focus speed unit. While I'm in hand, the cursed unit is immobile. So that means that if they want to make that unit not immobile, they have to spend 4 mana in order to get rid of it. Now, one thing to note is that curses, from what I have heard from the devs, they cannot be discarded by cards that target it. So that's like Zonite, Urchin, Rummage. Cards like that, can't discard them. Same thing with Updraft. If it targets, it cannot get rid of this from your hand. But cards like Sunken Temple, that, or even University of Piltover, if you're a real maniac, they can get rid of these cards and shove them back into your deck, or discard them. But that's a fairly niche scenario, as they do not target. But let's just go over the other ones real quick. We know Morgana's is shackles. And then we have Terror. While I'm in hand, the cursed unit has -3. Suppression. While I'm in hand, you can't play spells other than Suppression. So that's one that probably wouldn't target a unit in general. That's probably the other thing to explain, is that they don't have to always target a specific unit in the case of Suppression, which looks like it has Silas on the picture there. And then Icor, which is, while I'm in hand, round start, deal 1 to your nexus. So you have to spend these manas. You get to do it at focus speed, so you're not wasting your whole action on it. But it's important to know that this will be in your hand until you spend the mana to get rid of it. And what's also interesting is that cards like Icor, I've been saying crap wrong a lot lately. Feel free to yell at me in the comments. But Icor, cards like that will get buffed off of that player's spell buffs. So if you have tie bulk on the board and you've increased the cost of all of your spells by 2, if the opponent curses you with Icor now deals 3 damage, because now you've given it +2. So it's not off of the enemy's buffs, it's off of your buffs. So it might be an interesting counter to tie bulk type decks. Anyway, next up, so I more wanted to show this just to show that Morgana's level 2 seems to be a skill, not a burst speed effect. Because it says, deal 3 to cursed enemies and 2 to the enemy nexus. So it's interesting, though, that it doesn't show on her baseline card that it's a skill. But then this pops up as one of the new cards that got released. So I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it's going to be a skill, kind of like Gwen. But that is interesting that it doesn't display it on her text as a skill. But anyway, I just thought that that was important to mention. So we're going to get into some of her followers right now. The Ruby-Eyed Conjurer. When you play it, grant Spell Shield or Overwhelm to an ally in hand. So this is kind of like that one card that's already in Targon. I can't remember her name, but she also gives Spell Shield or Overwhelm. But she will give it to a unit on board, as to where this will do it to a unit in hand. Now, Morgana says you've targeted units. I don't know if Morgana needs to... I don't know if the unit needs to be on board or if it can be a unit in hand. The fact that they released this card makes me think that it probably can be units in hand too, with like self buffs. But I don't know about that for a fact. Lisa and Dolly, which I forgot to update here. Curse an enemy with shackles. Play effect. I should also mention, just real quick, that these are Targon cards. At least these first two. So, just having more ways to curse something within the Morgana archetype. I think filling your opponent's hand with useless cards is a very annoying mechanic that we haven't seen yet in LOR. It's kind of like the cousin of pranks, where you're debuffing their current cards. Now this is like a debuff, and it's a wasted slot in hand. Although, I'm imagining if the opponent has a full hand, like they have 10 cards in hand, you probably can't cast a curse on it, which is interesting. Interesting counterplay, I guess, if you're okay with almost discarding something that's important in your deck to not get cursed. Then we have the Mage Seeker Inquisitor, which is a 4-mana Challenger and Tough Demacia card. When I'm summoned, curse your opponent with Suppression. So this is the one where you can't play spells other than Suppression. So this wouldn't count as like a target per se, because this isn't targeting anything, it's just adding it to your opponent's hand. Very interesting. I wasn't really sure if this actually counted as Morgana support, but I shoved it here just to kind of show more of the curses as in their actual use case, rather than just saying what the card does. Mihira, Aspect Ascendant, is an 8-mana, 6/8 Targon follower. On play, curse 2 enemies with shackles twice, which is pretty annoying, because that means that she's putting in 4 cards in your hand that you can do nothing with. I guess I don't know for a fact if that's how it works. It might be just increases the cost of shackles. Okay, yeah, so it does... Okay, so that's my mistake. So it does just increase the cost of it. So this will not create 4 cards in hand. This will create 2 cards that cost 4 in hand. Interesting. So that's how that works with shackles. I imagine anything that's targeting the same thing twice like that is going to increase the mana cost of it rather than... Huh, that's really interesting, actually. So you're going to have 2 useless cards in hand that cost 4, I'm imagining. Because this is, they're going to be 2 separate units here. Which means your opponent has to spend 8 for their units to be able to block or attack. So that is it for the units for Morgana. Now we're going to be looking at the spells that have to go with Morgana. And this one is going to be a 2-mana slow speed Demacia spell, Magical Fettering, slow speed, as I said, grant an ally +0/+2, curse your opponent with Suppression. Interesting. So, give an ally increased health, so you're targeting something, but then also you're going to give your opponent... It's going to make it so your opponent can't cast spells, which... It doesn't say, like, grant this to do that, which means even if the unit dies, it should still give them the suppression, but I guess they could just still use their fast speed spells or burst speed spells before this resolves. It's not my favorite card, but I think it's mostly not my favorite card just because if you're looking for something to buff health, there's probably better options already in the game that do something more proactive than this. Because this is like a proactive slow speed spell, right? So I guess if your deck needs that, then this isn't terrible. I guess Formidables could probably enjoy this. Just that you're not playing... You could do this so your opponent can't just Buried in Ice or something your board. Black Shield is a 2-mana burst speed Targon card. Give an ally Spell Shield this round and curse it with Shackles. Oh, interesting. So you would self curse. So it says give an ally Spell Shield this round and curse it with Shackles. I wonder if that means that the Shackles is also only this round and like the card is fleeting, or if that stays after the Spell Shield's gone. I would imagine it has... I don't imagine that if you don't spend a 2 mana, that's going to stay after the Spell Shield's gone. But it'd be really funny if it does. Okay, as far as, like, burst speed effects go... So now, what I don't know is if a unit is in battle and you give it immobile, does it go out of combat like a stunned unit would? Or does it continue the combat and then it can't attack or block anymore? I mean, this is also probably just really good if you're looking for, like, a solid back row unit to keep it alive, right? Like, if you're talking, like, a Shellfolk deck where you're probably never attacking with Shellfolk to begin with, you do this to keep it alive. Anyway, next card, Dark Binding. A 3-mana, fast-speed Targon spell. Stun an enemy and curse it with Shackles. That's really annoying. I actually think that's a pretty good card. Especially if you're... I mean... First off, it's Yasuo support. Second off, though, like, Targon just being able to have, like, actual control tools, even outside of Morgana, I feel like is a good thing, because their whole region identity has a lot to do with, like, big cosmic units that just want to slap down on the board, but you don't always have the longevity to do that without another region. Giving Targon a bit more options for, like, being able to stun stuff, maybe stuff that's not, like, direct removal, other than, like, the expensive stuff. Having some, like, inexpensive stuff that's, like, does something interesting, I think is a plus for Targon. Also, I'm pretty confident that Dark Binding is Morgana's champ spell. Yeah, that's her champ spell. Sinner's Vice. A 6-mana slow-speed Targon spell. Curse an enemy with Shackles. Increase the cost of enemy curses everywhere by 1. So now that's very annoying. Making it cards like Suppression and Shackles now cost 3 or cost 4, even if you play multiple of these. Even, like, if you get to the point where you're making them cost 5, that's, like, half of their mana on average. If not more. You can do this on turn 3 if you just bank. I guess it ultimately depends on if a strat like this is going to be really strong. I guess, like, the type of deck where something like this would be really good is something like Curse Shellfolk, where you put pranks and you just keep pranking these. I don't, like, you wouldn't want Shellfolk on the board, because then you just end up taking the curses for no reason. But if you do give them the pranks to your opponent, you can make this cost more. And then also curse the units, or prank the units that they would be able to play. I feel like that's a very annoying deck, and that's where, like, something like this would see play. I don't know if you'd play this in, like, a baseline Morgana deck, just from what I'm seeing of her. I feel like she's probably better off just having, like, good units and spells that do stuff proactively. And a 6-mana slow-speed spell is proactive, I guess, but maybe not the best. You know, if you did this with Jace, though, with, like, a level Jace, Jace Targon curses. That's an interesting thought. Anyway, I think now it's time to get into the next champion that we have, which is Mordekaiser, who is a 7 mana, 5/8 Noxus and Shadow Isle champ. So I think both of these champs, 2 of the 3 new champs are multi-region, and then the last champ is, of course, a World Walker. We'll get into that. Mordekaiser, though, a challenger unit to play, kill up to 2 allies. When you slay another ally, revive it. Anyway, Mordekaiser levels up, 15 plus allies have died. Allies with 5 plus power count twice. Which is... that is, like, very CCG of this game to do that. That's not a problem, obviously, but it's like, as someone who has tried printing out cards to then play with in person with people, doing stuff like that is really hard. Like, that's a lot of things to keep track of, is, like, keeping things that have 5 plus power cost twice, or count twice. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see. I'm going to imagine that the 2 units that you pick on the... when you slay another ally, revive it. I'm going to guess that that doesn't count the 2 units that you kill with Mordekaiser, because that'd be kind of busted to just basically have no downside to dropping him on 7. I mean, he's not, like, super overstated, so maybe that is how it works. But I do want to... you know what, we'll talk about his level 2 first, before we get into the new keyword. So after you've had what was it, 15 allies die? 15 allies have died, yes. So after 15 allies have died, Mordekaiser levels, becomes a 6/9, nice. Kill up to 2 allies. When you slay another ally, revive it. And then on attack, for the rest of the game, when you slay a unit, drain 1 from the enemy nexus. So that is only on attack, though. So I don't... okay, so if he attacks twice... I guess what I don't know is how many times this procs. If this procs every time he attacks... I think I did, actually. Now that I'm saying that out loud, I think I do remember reading a dev's tweet that if he attacks twice, this will happen twice. So now when you slay units, it will drain 2 from the enemy nexus. Or I guess... more accurately, it will drain 1 twice, which I actually don't know if that's how that works, and that actually does matter because of Lyssandra's effect to give your Nexus tough, and Lord Eldred too. Things that give your Nexus tough with this drain effect will matter if it's 1 twice or if it's now 2. I would imagine that it is probably going to be the deal 2, as opposed to deal 1 twice. I only say that based off of precedent that we have in the game right now with, like, puff caps. They, instead of they used to deal 1 multiple times to your Nexus, and then because of toughness, they changed it. I think the same thing with flash bombs, too. But so anyway, I should probably talk about the brand new keyword that Mordekaiser brings up, because his actual card doesn't bring it up. And that is going to be Deathless. Now, Deathless is a keyword that when a unit dies, revive it with 1 health, stunned. So I was under the impression that maybe this worked like the Phoenix card from the Celestial package. You know the one I'm talking about, where when it dies, it revives back at full health. But now, I think it does work like that. And I mainly have some level of confidence saying that, because the bringing it back stunned means that it won't continue to be in combat. It will actually rip it out of combat if it is in there attacking. So at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter whether it does work exactly like that or not, because it's going to be put back on the bench regardless. It is an interesting keyword, though. So you give that to a unit, and then, like, the thought process I'm having here is that if you have 2 Deathless units and you target them with Mordekaiser's level 1 ability, kill up to 2 allies. So Mordekaiser, when you slay another ally, revive it. if you do this, I believe what's going to happen is Mordekaiser will revive those 2 allies you just killed. And if they both had Deathless, you now have another 2 of these units, but they're stunned at 1 health. Which means if your opponent's on, like, Caustic Rift, then sure, like, it kind of doesn't matter, but then you're just getting more Mordekaiser stacks. So anyway, Mordekaiser is going to be a very interesting champ. I think the biggest crutch that's going to happen is him just being so expensive. Since he doesn't have to see the allies die, I do think that he will mostly come down leveled, kind of like how Scion does, where he pretty much only comes onto the board leveled. I think that is going to be the best way to play him. And then his level 2 is pretty strong if you can actually get the attack off. He's one of the few Shadow Isle champs that doesn't have, like... I mean, I guess Thresh doesn't have any keyword either that's, like, Fearsome or Overwhelm. He has Challenger. So the Challenger makes him really strong, too. The Phoenix card you mentioned? Gotcha. I'm okay, how are you? I'm doing alright. Hungry, but other than that, we're fine. Alright, so we're going to get now into Mordekaiser's package, starting again with the followers. This one we have Shackled Ghast, 1 mana, 1/1 Shadow Isles card, Last Breath. The next time you revive an ally, create a copy of me in hand. So, It is interesting. I don't, other than just, like, being fodder for Mordekaiser, I guess it's, like, on the same idea of, like, Minion, where it's a perpetual blocker. Because I think if you have 2 of these, they're just going to keep cycling between one another. Kindred decks are going to be a bit insane. I already have a few decks in mind. Yeah, I mean, it will be very good to pair this stuff with Kindred, right? Because Kindred wants to see stuff die. These things want to die. It's you know, it works out for everyone, right? So now we have the Legion of the Severed, the 3 mana 4/2 Shadow Isles unit. Play, grant Deathless to an ally in hand. So that'll be really good if you have one unit that, like, needs to stay on the board. I'm just going to use a random example here. Let's just say something... You can give this to a champ, by the way. So... So you could give this to Kaisa. You know, I think Kaisa actually is a really interesting thought with Deathless. Because I am going to imagine it counts as a positive keyword. I can't imagine that it's a negative keyword. Although then yet again, like, we did experiment with this the other day, and Last Breath doesn't count as a positive keyword. So, I don't know. But even so, just being able to revive your Kaisa. Yeah, I mean, Nasus too, because if Nasus comes back with Deathless, he'll just have, what, -1 HP? Because his passive just gives him stats. Dude, this is going to be very annoying with Nasus. The more I think about it, this is very annoying if you put this on a Nasus. Holy. Alright, so Blade Pierce Revenant, the 3 mana 2/3 Noxus card, has Deathless, and when an ally is revived, grant it Challenger. That's pretty fun. It's a little niche, but I think considering that you're going to be putting this into a deck that wants to see things get Deathless or revived by Mordekaiser, I think it's probably pretty good. It being a Noxus means that you're going to have a lot of ways to give things Overwhelm too. So having big Overwhelm units that can grab the small fry that you want to hit, pretty decent. Iron Legionary, a 3 mana 5/1 Noxus card. Play, deal 3 to an ally to deal 3 to an enemy. Which I think effects like this are fun. Like, do something to an ally to do it to an enemy too. Now, it is along the same lines as, like, what's that? The 2 mana card? I don't think it's Demolitionist, but it's maybe it is Demolitionist. 2 mana Noxus card that deals 1 to a unit to deal 2 to the enemy next to this. So if if the enemy kills your unit, their unit isn't going to take any damage, right? Because a Challenger could be really good on Renekton too. Blue Eyes Max Chaos Dragon. This thing doesn't look like a Chaos Dragon at all. How you doing today, Sleeper? Yeah, I think kind of like Fervor, but can't hit Fate. Yes, exactly. That Fervor is a much better example. How you doing today, J Broad? So yeah, I don't know how I feel about this, because it being 1 mana, it doesn't matter if this thing dies, because the skill still happens even if he dies, unless the skill specifically says he needs to be alive. And dealing 3 just to an enemy can be good, but usually there needs to be some kind of good payoff. So other than just being able to kill your own unit with the deal 3, I don't know how I feel about this one. This is one of those cards, by the way, where it's either garbage or it's the sleeper cracked card of the set. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it always happens where, like, there's one card that I'm like, I feel like this isn't very good, and then it just ends up being the best card in the game. So, I don't know. Alright, Lord Mallet, who I'm pretty sure is the same dude who is on the rally card in Noxus. But he is a 4-mana, 5/2 Noxus card with Deathless, and no other effect. So, other than just being more Mordekaiser fodder, he doesn't really have any... he's mostly vanilla. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there aren't a whole lot of cards in the game that see play that are just, like, a keyword and nothing else, unless they're, like, really well statted. If you have Deathless on something about to die and then use it... Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair for the previous card. But yeah, I mean, this isn't bad. It's definitely not bad. It just being at 4 mana makes me question how useful it is. I guess, like, you'd want a, like, reputation deck. I mean, they do have one of the decks that you can buy in this expansion. They did announce, like, the cosmetics and stuff. Is going to be a LeBlanc Mordekaiser deck. So I'm assuming a card like this will proc Reputation fairly well, because he alone can proc it twice if the opponent doesn't just have 2 spells to remove it with. So maybe he's a bit better in, like, a Reputation deck than I'm giving him credit for, but it's hard to be excited about vanilla units just in general. So that's my hot take. 2 5/2 for 4, not bad at all. Yeah, I mean, that's true too. This is a cannon fodder unit. You drop it on board and it requires 2 spells to clear. Yeah. No, I mean, like, exactly, right? It procs Mordekaiser 4 times because 5+ powers count twice. So it is very good with Mordekaiser. Just like I said, it's just hard to be excited for vanilla units like this, right? Because, like, on the surface, it doesn't seem very interesting, right? Actually, like, the more you think about it, the more interesting it gets, but it's probably not playable, but could be. I think if there's enough space in a Mordekaiser LeBlanc deck, it actually could be pretty good. I mean, also, the artwork's just sick, so... Amalgamation of Vile Rites is just a, like, such a metal name for anything. 5 mana, 5/3 Shadow Isles card with Deathless to play me, kill an ally. Last breath, heal your Nexus 2. So, I don't know, like, the cards that are, like, to play me, kill something, they see play. Like, I mean, think of Butcher, think of the 4 mana draw 2 card. They're good. But they usually have, like, a board presence thing where they're replenishing your board. I guess in this instance you have Deathless now, so you're going to be targeting this on Deathless cards. That's interesting, actually. The Heal Your Nexus 2 seems not needed, but probably welcomed. I don't know about 5 mana on this one. Yeah, like, for the stats and stuff, it's also heal 4. Oh, yeah, because it's Last Breath and Deathless. That's true. Okay, so it's heal 4, you know, technically. I think that's the thing that makes this the most interesting, is that, like, it comes on board, it procs a Deathless and then it also is deathless, so it's just really annoying board presence. Like, there's gonna be so much silence. You know, that's something that I'm noticing, is that they printed a lot of this, and they didn't really give us a lot of good ways to get rid of these that isn't just playing into the Mordekaiser game plan. Like, think about, like, the ways that you would actually prevent the deathless from happening is silence or obliterating. And there's not, like, a ton of that in the game. I'm pretty sure, like, Shurima has 2 cards that obliterate. And that's, you know, one of them is an Ascended level 3. Bilgewater has a card that obliterates. And then Targon has the rest of them, right? No, PNZ has 1 or 2. Board space is going to be hard to get with a Mord deck. I don't really think board space is your biggest issue, because if you just have a big board of, like, beat 6, like, you're kind of okay. Would Quicksand stop deathless? It should. It turns off keywords, right? So if it doesn't have a keyword when it dies, then it's not going to do anything. That's a good point, too. I didn't think about Quicksand, but, like, there's not a whole lot of cards like Quicksand. And that still leaves us in 3 regions. Yeah, so I think, like, with Mordekaiser, the thing that you're going to be most focused on is just having beat 6 your opponent has to address. Does Deathless unit come back the first time they die? Yes. I can show that on screen again real quick. So it is, when a unit dies, revive it with 1 health, stunned. So you won't even be able to attack that turn that you do the Deathless effect. But Mordekaiser needs to see 15 allies die, and ones that have 5 power or more count twice. So a 5 power unit with Deathless is going to count for 2 sacks for Mordekaiser level up. Alright, so now we're going to get into the spells real quick. Death's Grasp. 3 mana, fast speed Shadow Isle spell. Kill an ally to deal 5 to a unit. Killing an ally to deal 5 at 3 mana is pretty good, I think. Think of just how, like, Hate Spike stacks. Now, Hate Spike also gives you a unit that your next summon can benefit from, as to where this doesn't have that. And then there's also the Gwen spell, which I think is also 3, that kills to deal damage based on that. But your opponent has more room to play around that with, like, Frostbite and stuff. Also, Deathless is yet another version of Explorer units to shine. Oh, that's right, because Explorer units turn off keywords too. I didn't think of that. Gwen spell is 2 mana now. Yeah, Gwen spell is 2 mana now, but I feel like the difference is that, like, I don't know. I guess they're not that different, but there is more. This is always 5 damage. The Gwen spell, you could be in a situation where you have a unit with, like, 2 power, or you run into the situation where the opponent's Freljord, or something like that. I don't know if you'll see a lot of this card, just because of, you know, it's like, it's awkward, right? Because Hate Spike exists, which is 1 less mana and deals 2 less damage, but gives you the Husk. So I guess it will entirely depend on how many things, dealing 5 damage is a bit much. Could see it being nerfed to 4 damage. I think if this was, like, not limited to units, I'd agree, but I feel like it being a 3 mana deal 5 is probably fine, because, like, we need to make Shadow Isles great again, alright? Like, that region, in Standard at least, hasn't really had the time to shine of, like, being the big bad control region, outside of, like, where are some examples? Like, I don't know if I'd even consider Nasus Control, but Nasus Kindred is probably closer to Control. I think this replaces Hate Spike. I think it depends on, like, what you need, right? Like, what's popular in the meta, because if things like Scouts are still, like, big decks in the meta, the dealing 3 is more than enough, right? and it's less mana. So I think it'll be like a little meta dependent on which one you want. I mean, dealing 5 is always nice too, because this plays around like scouts having a form up. We need to make SI great again. 2 months later, SI decks need a nerf. Oh yeah, no, that's how it always happens, right? I mean, it's like the people who call for Targon to be better when we just got done talking about how broken Targon was like a year ago. Indestructible is just a 3-mana burst speed. Grant an ally Noxus. Grant an ally Deathless. It is Noxus. Sorry about that. Yeah, so interesting. So you can give anything Deathless, which again, I go back to Kaisa just because, I mean, I kind of like Kaisa, but Deathless Kaisa, though, yeah, that's exactly where I'm going with this. But yeah, so Indestructible definitely makes things interesting. Even if you don't run it in, like, a Mordekaiser deck, if you wanted to put it in, like, imagine Draven Rumble with, like, Rumble just not dying. Because Rumble's level 1 effect grants Spell Shield to Rumbles everywhere. So if you Deathless this, it's going to bring that Rumble back with Spell Shield. Or even, like, just, the Pirate aggro. I don't know if you can run Pirate aggro in Standard anymore, really. But, like, especially in Eternal. Indestructible in a Riven combo deck. The problem is that the card comes back stunned. Which means if you're trying to, like, attack with it... I mean, it gives you another turn to keep Riven around. Because you can just send it back to your back row and hope that you can survive another turn. But I think it is a bit more situational. But it is also in Riven's region, so it's like just good way to protect your combo pieces. Alright, and now finally we get to the big bad of the Shadow Isle region, Realm of Death. This is Mordekaiser's champ spell, by the way. An ally, it's a 10 mana slow speed spell. An ally starts a free attack, challenging the strongest enemy, kill all other units. Which is just so interesting. It's like Ruination on an attack. And also, like, keep in mind, if your board is full of Deathless units, sure, they die, but then they come back stunned. So if you do this on their turn... this also is like the first time that Shadow Isles is getting a free attack, right? I could be wrong, but I think it's the first time Shadow Isles gets a free attack. Cataclysm and Ruination made a baby and named it Realm of Death. I mean, that's how I would feel if I had to play against both of those cards. I don't know if I think this spell's really all that good, though. Like, it suffers from the exact same problems as, like, a Harrowing, where it's just really expensive. So if Deny is in the meta at all, you know where I'm going with this? Like, if it does go off though, it's incredible. It's like actually better than the Age of Dragons card that came out a little while ago. Like, I don't... If you're looking to, like, control the board, I don't think you can run this instead of Ruination. Although, I just realized that Deathless makes Ruination so much worse now. Like, for both parties involved. Like, Calcarum, how you doing today? Yeah, like, it's just so... It is interesting, but I don't know that it's, like, actually that good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to evaluate this, because it's, like, a really good spell if it goes off, but it's so expensive. And I feel like we say this every time that there's really expensive cards, is that what you have to do is you have to build into it, right? You're either on some kind of ramp deck. Would a Nivea want this? Now that I'm thinking, does a Nivea want this? Because, like... No, I don't think so. I feel like you'd rather just have Harrowing. It's one of those champ spells that won't see main deck play, but it's a threat in any Mordekaiser matchup. It's an auto win if Mord is on the board. That's true too. Calcrum.
WTF, it's been 3 months.
I know. 3 months goes by fast. Thank you so much for the continued support, though. I do appreciate you, buddy. I was giving you a thumbs up, but I had to do it with this hand. Because there's a giant spell covering my other hand. But yeah, so I think that's probably fair. Is that it's, like, really good if it goes off, but maybe... I think the fact that it's Mordekaiser's champ spell makes it better. Because then you don't have to main deck this. But yeah, so now I think that's all of Mordekaiser's cards. And so now that gets us into the final champ of the set, which is the Elder Dragon, which is Runeterra's first 12-mana champion, a World Walker, so no region. It's a 10/10. So he's a dragon, obviously. He has Fury. His origin is Aspect of the Dragon, which we'll get into the origin effect in a bit. But I cost 1 less for each different dragon boon you've played this game. And then on play every dragon boon on me. So I think, since he's the only card that really, like, cares about dragon boons, we are going to just immediately get right into dragon boons. So just so you can tell, there are 6 dragon boons that are in this set. It's a new vocab. Dragon boons are skills that provide your units with buffs respective to the boon, turning your unit into lethal threats. So, the options that we have when it says play every boon on me, you've got Chemtech Blight, which is grant Deathless. You've got Cloudbringer's Grace, which grants Challenger. Hextech Prowess, which is grant +1/+1 and impact twice. Infernal Might, grant +1/+1 and fearsome. Oceanic Will, heal allies and your Nexus 2. And Mountainous Vigor, grant +1/+1 and tough. So, I mean, Hextech Prowess just seems like the best one, because it gives +2/+2 and 2 impact. like, I don't know. I mean, the P&Z one's just the best one. But now I think we should probably get into his level 2, and then we'll talk about what the origin effect is. Because the Dragon Boons will come up in a minute here. But I just want to finish talking about Elder Dragon, because he is a very exciting card. Should be +1/+1 impact 2. You think so? It says grant +1/+1 and impact twice. I feel like they should have just made it 2 sentences. Grant +1/+1, grant impact twice, if that's the case, you know? Also, how you doing today, there? So anyway, he costs 1 less for each different dragon boon that you've played. And he's also at 12 mana. His level up is your allies have attacked with 75 plus power. Riot wording. And then his level 2 is just, I cannot be stopped. Now, a lot of people have had a lot of questions about what I cannot be stopped means. So we're going to pull that up on screen too. Now, I cannot be stopped is simply, he cannot be removed, he cannot be blocked, he cannot have negative modification. Can still be stunned. No, it cannot be negatively modified. He can't be stunned. He can be stunned, like, before level. I don't know how that would work. If he's on the board and is stunned and then levels up, will it remove the stun? That I don't know. That's an interesting question. From talking with the devs, or I guess I didn't talk with them, I saw on, can he be transformed? I don't think he can be transformed by your opponent. Can he be transformed by you? It's an interesting question if you can cast, like, Hextech Transmodulator on him to turn him into something else because it's you doing it. That I don't know. Cannot be transformed, but you can use a Battle Fury on it. Well, I mean, yeah. I understand they can't be transformed from opponent stuff. The question is, like, can I use my Hextech Transmodulator on him? Also, wait, no. Hextech Transmodulator says followers, doesn't it? I think that does say that on the cards that it's only followers. So I think, like, the only cards that transform... Yeah, I think the only cards that transform are opponents' ones. So you wouldn't be able to ever transform him until, like, there's a card that lets you transform your champions. And then that's a weird question. So how you deal with this thing, you win before he levels up. Because, again, just to make sure we're all clear, his level up is your allies have attacked with 75 plus power, which is not easy, right? Like, think about Volibear. Volibear is just deal 50 damage total. Like, it doesn't have to be through striking. It doesn't have to be through any of that. And he still doesn't level up, like, I would say at least 70% of the time. I feel like I rarely see a Volibear level up. And when I do see it, I'm usually already lost the game anyway. I don't think this makes Elder Dragon bad. That's not what I'm saying. But as far as, like, actually ever seeing his level up, I think will be interesting. They made an actual auto-win card. And they made an auto-win card without, you win the game, right? Like Rise or Fiora. Now, what I will say is that apparently Sump Monument makes it so that he, it makes it so that he, like, can't destroy the Nexus, but it still puts in, what is it, like 150 puff caps from one strike? And since you can, oh, we didn't even go over his origin yet. So I won't spoil that until we get to the origin. But yeah, so he definitely, like, you can't do anything. You can't block him, you can't stun him, you can't give him ephemeral, you can't obliterate him. The only way that this thing ever comes off the board is if you, as the player who owns him, you play a unit on top of him, which is going to be really annoying because apparently his buff there, the 12 mana. So from what the devs have said, his level 1 cost reduction does not apply to level 2, which means if the first one goes off the board, you can't replay it. You can't. He costs 12 unless you have 2 Sigils of the Storm on the board, because he's a Titanic. I mean, he's Titanic as F. I tried to say AF and then as and then stop myself because I didn't want to say the rest of that. Anyway, so getting into his origin now. Aspect of the Dragon, you may put any followers that cost 6 or more into your deck during deck building. When you play a unit with 6+ base card cost, pick one of 2 Dragon Boons to play on it. So that means that you'll be able to play, like, let's just use, as a random example, let's just say Corina, right? When you play Corina, she'll get either, like, one of any 2. So she could get, like, Chemtech Blight or Infernal Might. She could get Cloud Drinker's Grace or Hextech Prowess. So basically, one of those 2 boons will always pop up. And then that's why with Elder Dragon's level 1 ability of play every Dragon Boon on me, it will get your units big pretty quickly. But anyway, we will start to take a look at some of his followers. I think, though, first we have his champ spell. Now, I included this spell at the end or at the beginning instead of at the end, just because he's a region world walker, so you'll only be able to get this if you have 2 of him on the board. Elder Dragon's Primordial Roar. 8 mana burst speed. Refill your mana to full. Draw all 6+ cost followers from the top 6 of your deck. So actually, like, actually pretty sick. Like, it could end up being a draw 6. If you're on full mana. So, it says refill your mana to full. I don't know if that means spell mana too, because I think Living Legends is worded the same way. I'm gonna double check that real quick while I talk, but yeah, refill your mana to full. So it doesn't include spell mana. This is also just a really good time in the video just to remind you that if you are enjoying what you see, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment with what you're super excited about down below, and hit the subscribe button. It does help me out a lot. And if you're wondering who I'm talking to, because it seems like I'm talking to someone, this is a Twitch live stream as well. So feel free to go over to my Twitch. Link is in the description. And I will very much appreciate seeing you stop by. Anyway, back to the video. First, we have the 2-mana, 2/3 Demacia Dragon Allegiant. When I'm summoned, draw a dragon if you behold a dragon. Now, this is not necessarily Elder Dragon support as much as it's a unit that could give him a unit to play, right? Because I mean he is a 6+, or he is a dragon, right? Dragon herder. But that's with any Freljord ramp deck. Yeah, that's true too. So he's like kind of, but again, I don't think you really want to be playing Elder Dragon in Demacia. I just don't think they have a whole lot of tools to like get him out consistently and early enough in the game to matter. Because you got to keep in mind, right? He looks like a 12 mana 10/10 with just Fury, but you were also able to put every boon on him. So when you summon him, he will be Deathless, have Challenger, 2 Impact, Fearsome, Tough, and he'll have +2/+2, +3/+3. So he'll actually be a 13/13 if you successfully play him. Which is kind of disgusting. Unless it only means boons that you've seen. But, like, still, that is, like, a disgusting amount of stats for one unit. No one unit should have access to that kind of thing. Anyway, next unit we have is the Cloud Drake, a 6-mana 6/6 Demacia dragon with Challenger, with Fury. When I'm summoned, reduce the cost of all ally units in hand by 1. Actually, like, a really good dragon. I kind of wish it was a 5 cost, like 4/4 or something. Because it doesn't need to be super strong. I think the reason that it's 6 mana is so that it's playable in an Elder Dragon deck. Yeah, I think that this is a really interesting card, actually. Something that just kind of works towards ramp in the, like, reducing the cost of units in your hand. It's similar to the, what's that one? Mobilize? It's similar to Mobilize in a way, but, it's on, like, a beat stick. Cloud is great to let you play 2 6 costs in a turn if you, have them in hand. Yeah, because now you can actually play, you could play, like, 2 additional Cloud Drinkers if you're on 10 mana, right? I do like this card. I do like that it's in the Elder Dragon region. I think for this dragon to see a lot of play, it would need to be cheaper, because as of right now, like, I don't think, like, as dragons exist right now in, like, Targon Demacia, I don't think you're really trying to play this card. But definitely if you have something that's encouraging you to play cards that are 6+ costs, this is very good. Ocean Drake. 6 mana, 3/5 elusive Ionia dragon, because nothing ever goes wrong giving Ionia more elusive units. When you play a fast spell, slow spell, or skill, heal your Nexus 1. So, like, I think you can put this in a Jhin deck. Like, I don't think this needs to be, I don't think this needs to be in just Elder Dragon. I think, I mean, unless, no, I think, well, I guess it depends. Things that say when you play a blah, 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 does that count for Jhin's origin? Ocean Drake seems like a karma card to me. Yeah, playing this in Jin. Jin Ionia, though. Well, is it Jin Ionia? Like, is this thing in the Jin region? Or because he doesn't have an actual skill, it's not? Because that changes my opinion. If, like, this thing is in Jin origin, I guess its effect isn't a skill. Like, its effect isn't a skill. So that makes me think not. I don't think it can be in his origin. Yeah, and that makes Jin Ionia, like, interesting. Unless you do Jin Elder Dragon, but I don't know if that's actually going to be good. Because, I don't know. I mean, I guess it'll depend on how many more of these dragons have skills. So let's just keep going. But, I mean, a 6-mana elusive dragon that heals you is interesting. I think this would be more... If the heal is a skill, yeah. I think this will be more like an Ionia elusive blocker that can heal you so that, like, you have other ways to play around elusive, which, I mean, if you're, like, a Karma whatever deck and you're trying to be, like, in a control environment, and you're running into, like, elusive aggro, which is just always a thing in this game, just always a thing at every point, then I think this is probably not bad. I don't know that it's great in Elder Dragon decks. I don't think it, like, I guess if you're putting boons on it, it's probably better, because then it gets other stats and keywords and stuff. But on its own, like, I don't think you could play this outside of Elder Dragon, besides, like, in a meta where you can cheat this out and elusive aggro is rampant. TF Karma with Ocean Drake, random heal 4 for casting 1 card on a turn. The meme is a dream, though. I mean, it's a dream, but it's also not, like, the dumbest dream ever, right? Gentle Gem Dragon. 6 mana, 6/5 Targon Dragon. When you play a fast spell, slow spell, or skill, grant other dragon allies +1/+1. That is very interesting. Also, someone pointed this out on Twitter. I just thought it was really funny that it's a gem dragon, but doesn't interact with the gem speed. For those who don't know, the card gem, the 1-mana gem, used to just say that it's burst speed, but can only play it when units are not in combat. It used to have some weird convoluted wording. And then, like, internally, the devs called it gem speed, to which then the community is like, this should just be a keyword. And that's how we ended up with Focus. That card is what made Focus a keyword. So that was super cool, right? But then Gentle Gem Dragon doesn't even interact with Focus speed. So, I don't know. It's like, it's something that only matters in the lore of, like, the game itself, not in, like, the actual lore of the LOR, but I remember gem speed. Yeah, right? Anyway, its effect, every time you play fast, slow, or skills, which means it can't be on burst speed stuff. So, here's the thing, right? If you play this with Elder Dragon, it's broken. Because you're going to play this, and then it's going to immediately cast a skill for the boon, because the boons are all skills. So you're going to do this, and if you hit Infernal Might on this thing, you're giving this thing +1/+1, but then you're also giving all your other dragons +1/+1. Yeah, actually just kind of crazy that you can just keep playing boons. And if you have this on board when you play Elder Dragon, and he just plays 6 skills on himself, although I don't know if he counts as one solid skill that's, like, play all of them, or if it's 6 individual ones. If his thing is 6 individual ones, this card's kind of cracked. Even without that, I think this is a good card, just because of, like, if someone goes to kill it immediately, you can just fast speed get this off. It's 6 individuals, then yeah, this is... If you could get an Elder Dragon on the board while this is on the board, and you just give everything +6/+6. Saw in the video, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's just wild to me, but I don't think it's, like, super broken outside of that scenario, though. Like, I don't, like, I mean, you'd have to be on a dedicated Dragons deck anyway for this to be good. Which is like I think that this does make Age of Dragons probably fine, because you can like play this for 0 mana and then just start getting other dragon stuff. So it's not terrible outside of that, but I think with Elder Dragon, this is a really good card. All right, Alatus the Gallant. 7-6 Demacia Dragon with Fury. Your dragon boons target all dragon allies. So again, if you have this, and you have an Elder Dragon that just got played, 6 of your boons are just targeting everything. Wild. Now, the fact that it says target all dragon allies, does that mean that it's going to, like, that one skill now targets multiple things? Or is it multiple targets? Did they have that in the video? Because that's interesting. Shyvana back? I don't think you can play Shyvana. Like, I don't think you want to be Elder Dragon Demacia. Like, I just don't... That just doesn't sound good to me. That's one Chad Dragon. I know, that pose is very, very Chad. It targets multiple? Okay. But yeah. Just saw 6 skills in Elder. Got it. What is it with 2023 being the year of Timmy players with LOR? Hey, man. If it brings new players in, I'm for it. I don't care. I don't care what type of player they are. But yeah, I don't know about this one. This one's interesting. Like, if you get the cost reduction down, it's really good with, Also, this card is only good with Elder Dragon, right? Because I don't know that there's any other cards that give dragon boons. I think the only way to get dragon boons is with Elder Dragon being in the deck. So if you are playing this, it has to be in an Elder Dragon deck. So there's really no reason to look at it outside of that. But yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Are there other followers that only work with a certain champ? Like, there are some that definitely, like, work best with them, but I don't know if there's been any that, like, only work with it. Like this. Anyway, Haisho, Shell of the World. So this thing is not a dragon. It's just a 9-mana, 9/9 Ionia card with Spell Shield. I think the first Ionia card that just has Spell Shield on it, by the way. Each round, the first card you play costs 9 less. Which is, like, wild to me that this thing has Spell Shield. And, like, I mean, okay, it's very expensive and it has good stats. I think it having good stats works in the round it's played. Oh, yeah, I bet. It doesn't say next turn or whatever. There's a lot of cards that this can be very annoying with, just by the way. Like, if we just go to, I guess I'll look at standard first. At best, you're getting 2 cost reductions. I mean, it is, like, you know, once a turn, but it's still a 9/9 with Spell Shield. Like, not a whole lot of regions can deal with a 9/9, like, already. But then also it has Spell Shield. If we just look at cards that, like, would be free, though, I do want to just look at this real quick, right? So, like, She-Who, like, yeah, let's look at these. Like, Clash of Giants is, like, good, but already has its own built-in cost reduction. Sky's Descent is a meme. This doesn't count. Age of Dragons, War Mother's Call, those are really good. Like, Utter Devastation and Trash, like, I don't think you're playing these in a deck with that, but, like, it does make it just does add value to that card if you're on, like, Pharos. If you're on, like, PNZ Ionia, it does have these. And then, yeah, like, I think the thing a lot of people are looking at, though, is, maybe not a lot of people, but at least I've seen people mention playing that and then Singular Will to just reset the board. Actually kind of funny. Empyrean Dance. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right, there's other new cards that are out. I just wanted to make sure that we at least took a cursory look at some things that it can hit. And it's also the first card. So, like, if you play a 1-mana card, it's going to cost 0, right? I think this card will be very interesting. Ionia Ramp. Like, maybe in Eternal, Lysandra, Trundle, Feel the Rush or Feel the Mina or something. It's definitely a high show synergy. Oh, the Empyrean Dance. Good with the Elder Dragon, too. So I'm scared with High Show because you can Spectral Maiden into High Show, into a non-ephemeral High Show, into any champ or win con. I mean, yeah, but, like, here's the thing, right? Spectral Matron is Eternal only. So, like, I think this just shows that, like, the power level of Eternal is drastically going up very high. So you're just gonna have to win before this happens, which is very, very interesting. But wait, getting this with Portia. Wait, having this and then casting your first big thing, and then they go to get rid of it, so you cast Condense. That's kind of interesting too. There's a lot of really fun, interesting combos you can do with this. And also some really toxic shit you can do with it, so. Anyway, I think now that is everything. This landmark I put in here because it's kind of support for Elder Dragon. But I think at this point, let me just double check my notes here. Yeah, from this point, we're mostly going to be looking at the miscellaneous things that are in this expansion. So that is all for the Champs package. Anyway, it's a 2-mana Shadow Isle landmark, Threshold of the Gray. Play, curse an enemy with terror, which we already talked about what the curses were. Curses, terror is, while I'm in hand, the cursed unit has -3. When you summon a Titanic ally, destroy me to draw 2, which is good. I don't remember there being a ton of Titanic units in Shurima, I'm sorry, not Shurima, Shadow Isles, but it is still, like, an interesting thought, because you could be on a War Mother's Call, like, old school War Mother's Call with Shadow Isles Freljord. Do you pick the ally that gets the -3? Yeah, I mean, it says curse an enemy. I'm pretty sure when curse is an on-play effect, so you always get to pick unless it's, like, suppression or ichor. I'm pretty sure terror and shackles you always pick, because it doesn't specify, like, something enemy, right? I would buy numbers of spicy chicken sandwich with fries and a Coke Zero. That is exactly what I'm craving right now. I don't know, I just feel like it's, like, if it's 2 hours before bed, it's too late to get food. Because then, like, your body's all kind of messed up from that. Ledros, Mordekaiser, Necrotic, and Arachnid, Terror of the Tides. Yeah, there's a handful, but, like, as far as cards that you'd want to just main deck in a Shadow Isles deck, I guess Mordekaiser and Ledros are pretty decent. But, yeah, it's an interesting card. Definitely. I think it's definitely good in, like, a Shadow Isles Volibear type deck. Just being able to play, like, She Who Wanders and fill your hand back up. I don't know that you'd run it as a 3-of, because I think that deck is already pretty tight with the cards you want to fit in there. So I don't know if you're fitting this in to cut out something else. But I think if you do find a room in this, it's actually a pretty decent card. So now we've got Yadolski Snowdog. I don't know if I said that right at all. But grant the top 2 allies in your deck +2/+2. It's I'm sorry. I should back up. 2 mana Freljord 2/3 with attack. Grant the top 2 allies in your deck +2/+2. This card is insane. This card does look pretty sick. Like just everything about it. First off, cute doggo. That's number 1. Omen Dog is broken. This card should not have been made. I mean, it is on attack. It's not play, right? So, like, you do have to strike in, or attack in with it. I do think that is very strong. It's the Mecha Yordle. I mean, also, like, this definitely replaces the other 2/3 in any Nico deck, right? It replaces that other doggo in Nico. Unless, like, you really want the Overwhelm. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Also, we're just getting to the part where, like, or getting to the point where, like, Nico doesn't even need to be in Freljord, because all the good Freljord cards, like, I don't know. It's like, you don't even need Nico's effect to be in Freljord with Nico. Like, all the good cards are just in Freljord already. Other than, like, the Tri-Tail, right? Because you got Omen Hawk, you got this, you got Saurian. Like, turn 1 Omen Hawk into turn 2 3/4 doggo is going to suck. I mean, if you're not the Nico player, yeah. But if you're the Nico player, it's going to feel really good. Also, Nico can turn into this. You now have another thing for Nico to turn into, which is also sick. I like it a lot. And I think a lot of people have been asking me my thoughts on this next card. It's a 2 mana 0/0 Freljord equipment. Handy Harness. I have +1/+0 for each different subtype you've summoned this game. So, like, okay. I think if you had, like, a good reason to be on equipment, this is good, but you got to keep in mind with Nico, right? Like, it's probably good in, like, a Gnar, Warden deck, right? Like, remember that Gnar Warden deck that existed before it got nerfed? Like, this thing is probably really good in that, because then you just give this to a Gnar or like Saurian or something. In Nico, though, not that Nico's doing, like, things that much different from the Gnar deck. I think the only issue I see is that, like, you need to have an Overwhelm unit that's getting, or Nico getting use out of this, right? And I feel like that deck is already very tight, the Freljord version of that deck. There's not a whole lot of things you want to cut out, because the other equipment that you could be on is Annika, the Darken unit. So yeah, I like it. I like the card a lot. I guess it's just, like, the thought of having to develop this slow speed. You know what I mean? I think that's the bigger thing for me. Is, like, in the Nico deck, you don't have a whole lot of room to spend 2 mana at slow speed for a buff on a unit, especially if it's not a unit that has Overwhelm. But in that Nico Freljord version I've been playing that has, like, the Mighty Poro and the 2/3 doggo that has the thing that turns in, you know, the Overwhelm thing. Freljord Nico has catch. That's true, too. You could start running catch in that deck, too. I mean, having access to catch does make this a little bit better. Yeah, so overall, I like the card. I just am not... I'm, like, hopefully optimistic, but I don't have, like, high hopes. Let me put it that way. Alright. Mirai Reef Spire. A 2-mana Bilgewater card. A landmark, even. When you spend mana to play a unit, refill 1 spell mana. So... I'm trying to think of a point where, like, this is really good. I think Nami kind of likes this, right? I mean, Nami doesn't level off of spell mana anymore. She levels off of seeing spells played. But, like, you have this landmark in a Nami deck, so you can play Blurble Fishes for 0, and then they give you 1 spell mana back. Respire may not on release, but at some point will break the game. I see what you're saying. Faint, how you doing today? Welcome, welcome. This works fine with Aphelios. And Nara Caesar, how you doing today? Okay. Yeah, Aphelios. Okay, I'm trying to think of the way to, like, min-max this, right? And that's probably spamming 1-drop cards. But it does say... It says spend mana to play a unit, which means that Aphelios Crescendum does not get a benefit from doing this. And, like, Mirai Warden, right? The 2-mana 2/1 that summons another unit, you only get, like, 1 spell mana from that, not 2. Even though it's 2 units, you only played 1 of the 2 units. It's also when you spend mana, so Blurble Fish has to not cost 0. Because I don't think 0 counts as mana. You can literally play Poro Bilgewater. Oh, yeah. I mean, we can go back to Poro Bilgewater, where we're on a Siren Song. Because now, you can, actually, yeah, that's a good point. You can, like, just play Poros and be able to have mana for Siren Song. I mean, that's not bad. I'm playing the Gauntlet, most fun I've had playing LOR since release. Nice. I'm happy for you. I think I agree that, like, maybe not immediately, but this card will be a bane of someone's existence as we move further into Runeterra's lifespan. Alright, the other Bilgewater card that got released in this set is a 3-mana 1/3 Brash unit. Honest Croupier? Croupier? He's a frog. When you play a card with cost equal to my power, grant me +1/+1. So, it's interesting. Like, it can scale to be really big, right? He looks fun, but will probably be trash. I think, like, the thing is, like, he is one of those cards that this guy needs to have a voice. Oh, yeah, if this dude doesn't have a voice, literally unplayable. If there's not a voice line for this card, unplayable. But yeah, like, he's one of those cards that the way it's worded makes you think that you want to... That looks like a noob trap. Yeah, it's like a deck where if you want to play it well, you have to, like, build your deck around it. But I don't think it's good enough to build a deck around. It is really honest. Yeah. Honestly crap. Anyway. No, I mean, I don't... You need a god tier curve and luck. I mean, here's the other thing, right? That top hat looks good, the card top. I think, like, if you just play a second one, they buff each other, right? When you play a card with a cost equal to my power... No, they don't buff each other, but you'll buff the first one with this. Oh, no, wait, it's cost equal to my power? It's not just equal powers? Oh, wait, so you need to play something that has... So, you need to play a 1-drop, and then you have to play a 2-drop, and then... Okay, yeah, no, this is, You can't even curve with it since you have to wait till turn 4? Okay, I mean, it's sounding worse and worse the more... I think the thing I like about it is that it's a brash unit that can grow. So, like, if nothing else, you can get, like, an attack in with this. But, yeah, okay, not seeming too great anymore. Works with spells and other stuff. Well, no, it says when you play it. Oh, when you play a card. That changes... Okay, that changes things again, because I thought it was when you play a unit. There's a hot thread where competitive players are ranking these cards. That's cool. How you doing today, Luigi? Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm so 50-50 on this card. Like, I don't think it's gonna ever be super good, but, like, but I do think it will be, fun. It'll definitely be fun. Anyway, let's get on to the next card. A 3-mana P&Z equipment that is 0/0, Shady Spectacles. Pick an allied follower. Transform my bearer into an exact copy of it while I'm equipped. Which just... What? Luigi... No, like, the bot is intentionally not letting people post links, because whenever I let people post links, someone posts a hazardous link, so that's why it does that. You need to ask permission before you post links. And also, linking to your own Twitter in my chat is, definitely a decision. Anyway, it's a 3-mana equipment card. Pick an allied follower, and then transform my bearer into an exact copy while I'm equipped. So, if you have She Who Wanders and, what if the unit has a elusive? It won't carry over the elusive, right? I don't remember how buffs work with transforming. I feel like they don't stay. But assimilation, they stay. So, It's an exact copy, so it should. Oh, I meant on the, like, if the unit I pick to put this equipment on has elusive. Like, okay, you know the squirrel, the 1-mana 1/1 that has elusive? If I try to turn that into a She Who Wanders, the She Who Wanders won't have elusive, will it? If it's granting elusive like the Blooming Cultist? Right. I'm not saying that the unit... It wouldn't still... Right. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But yeah. I don't know. It seems like it's a very fun card. Also, apparently this card, like, caused a lot of programming problems for some of the devs, according to Twitter. Still better than a shady character unit in terms of cost. Fits the P&Z theme of interesting build around, but is likely unplayable. I don't know about unplayable. I think it's really dependent on, like, what we're going for. But I think in the right deck, this card's actually insane. Maybe I'm totally off. I mean, I think, you know what, I think I'm okay with being the guy who says that this thing is, I'm okay with being the guy that says that this card's broken and then it ends up being the worst card in the game. I'm fine with that, because I feel like that's less embarrassing than saying it's the worst card in the game and then it breaks the game. I definitely feel like this is the better way to be. So I'm just gonna say that I think this card's pretty busted. I'll put it in my Sump Workers deck. I mean, like, Sump Workers is a really good example of this being good, right? Because then you can just create more. You can also, like, if you're in Noxus, like, imagine this in a discard aggro deck where you have, like, Farron, right? I'm not saying that, like, that's still good. I'm just saying, imagine this, right? Also, like, if you have Teemo, right, and they turn off his keywords, you could just turn him into something bigger, right? I just don't see a build for this. I think, yeah, like, that's the problem, right? But once you do have a build, like, if you have one follower that can get stacked, like, really big, like, okay, Marauders are, like, an example of a unit that can get really big, but, probably better is the other, Noxus card, the, I get all everywhere buffs. I think that thing can be interesting with this. I wish it was 2 mana so it could be a Vayne card. I mean, even with it being at 3 mana, like, I still think it's, I still think it's, like, in the right build, this is good. Like, Legion Deserter, Shady Spectacles with Ash Printer at home. I mean, it says an allied follower, right? So, unfortunately, you would not be able to do that. But the Ash follower, that's the doggo that gets increased stats for frostbiting something. That's pretty sick. And also keep in mind that this whole situation happens at burst speed, because it's when you play this, right? So, like, if you have 2 units, it does just make them both that thing. If Vayne would rumble it, the effect does nothing though. Best use I see for this is cloning BB. I mean, cloning BB is interesting. The Ash Dog does exist. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I feel like you could find a use for this in like an Overwhelm deck. You just have to play Overwhelm in P and Z, which isn't great. But like, you can put this on a champion and copy a unit. I mean, maybe it gives something interesting for Nico to be in P and Z, because that was one, like, now this is a total like tangent that's not for like the meta game at all. This is just for me personally. I do that Nico in every region challenge like once a year, or not once a year, but like at least every major patch I try it, right? And like the whole idea is that like P and Z doesn't really have a whole lot of interesting stuff to do with Nico outside of the Field of Rush card. No, the KDA card. I can't remember the name, but it's the 8 mana, give everything's keywords and stuff. This like could be an interesting thing for that, right? Just like where you have big statted units that you need to move into a different unit. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I'm spending way too much time on this one card. It's like pretty interesting, but I don't think in actuality it's that good. All right, how Charlatan Fishmonger, I think. 4 mana, 4/4 P&Z card. Round start, all players draw 1. Then grant your opponent's card fleeting, which is interesting. Like, you'd probably see this in like a puff cap deck, right? Like a dedicated puff cap. My favorite card of the new set. It is very interesting. Definitely an interesting new card. It is weird that he's like a fisherman, but like is in P and Z and not Bilgewater. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like a dude who fishes for a living should just be in Bilgewater. I don't know. That's just my headcanon. But yeah, like, there's not a whole lot of things to say about this other than just he does the puff cap thing, and also it should be a 4/3. Dude has good stats in P and Z and draws cards. Both very scary. P and Z has a harbor too. Oh, interesting. I thought they just had a giant pit, and that's what the Z part was. Yeah, I think 4 mana 4/4 for this effect is a little ridiculous. Because, like, every other card that does something like this just dies to a 3 mana card. Not this one. So, yeah, like, there's not a whole lot of use cases for this outside of, like, just wanting to draw cards or wanting to be in puff caps. But it is, like, when it's in there, it is really good. Anyway, now we have the Dies to Badger Bear. Oh, okay. I was trying to be cheeky and talk about Aftershock, but you're right. That is technically a 3 mana card. I think also the Shurima Gifts for Renekton card also kills it, but this card I honestly didn't even know existed until I started downloading all these pictures today. 2 mana burst speed Shurima spell, Ancient Malediction. Curse an enemy with terror, which again, terror is -3 power. Trash tier might be a Moo teaser. I think I agree with both of those statements. Like, because I don't think you'd want to be on Morgana Shurima. I just don't know that Shurima has, like... First off, this is the only curse card. This is one of 2 Shurima cards in this set. Shurima got 2 cards, right? Because I think the next card is Shurima, and that's it. Malediction is just a Moo card. Will probably be better next expansion. It might be. Maybe a Moo will even be worth it in the next thing. Okay, so I have a headache, and I think it should be Focus instead. I mean, I think you could make it 1 mana and I still wouldn't play it, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I think even if you buff this card, I don't really care for it, because, like, I don't know. Giving a unit -3 is, like, okay, but that card's probably gonna die, like, relatively soon after you do that, so they probably don't ever have to do the -2. So, I don't know. I think people saying that it's an Amumu teaser, because they do that every, like, expansion or so, right? Ash Shurima memes are looking spicy with Malediction. Anyway, the second PNZ card is Tomb Raider Barbara, which I think actually Barbara's been, like, technically in the game since the Shurima Berserker guy that, like, when he strikes, he creates a lucky find. I'm pretty sure he makes reference to Barbara. So, 3 mana, 3/2 Reptile Shurima card. Each round, the first time another ally dies or last breath, create a lucky find in hand. So that's cool. I mean, we're kind of going back to giving lucky finds, which is really fun. It's like a 3 HP combat trick that your opponent has to spend 2 mana to unblock after. You're talking about that previous card, I gotcha. They made a Barber card finally. This effect is dangerous. The first time another ally dies or last breath. Could we see a resurgence of Sivir in Eternal? Because I feel like Sivir doesn't... I haven't seen Sivir at all. No, you know what? I saw one Sivir, but it was a dude who was playing Mono Shurima with 6 different champs. So, like, I don't know if that really counts. I have an Action Mordekaiser build for this. Action Mordekaiser actually sounds interesting. And I do think lucky finds with Action are always welcomed. And just being able to kill, like, already wanting to kill your own stuff and then having this thing. Okay, I could see that. I'm not against it. Is there any deck that cares about random stats or keywords but also wants to slay its own units? Mordekaiser? I guess. Because I think, if I'm not, I mean, I guess it will entirely depend on how Deathless works. If Deathless, like, the revive thing keeps all current buffs and keywords on it, and just brings it back at 1 health and stunned, then I think it's broken. If it brings it back as its base card, like, it's a new summon, then I don't know. It should keep them? It should, right? So I think, like, Deathless with this is actually not that bad, because you can give, like, Spell Shield and stuff. I mean, assuming that the unit retains Spell Shield when it dies. I do think it's, like, more interesting than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say about that other than, like, Action will probably find his way to, you probably don't keep anything. It's a new summon. Is it a new summon? Because it says revive it. It says revive it. And I'm pretty sure, am I, like, crazy? Doesn't the Cosmic, or the Celestial card say revive me? It does say the first time I would die, fully heal me instead. Okay, so that is different. That does work differently. Okay, so I guess I just don't know how revive as a mechanic works. But, you know, we'll find out soon enough, right? Graveyard units don't keep anything but everywhere buffs. But revive is a new summon. Have we seen revive before? Is there another card that has revive that I'm just blanking on? Because I feel like we don't know this interaction. And I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people forget, is that, like, because something should work some way, doesn't mean that it does work that way. Chronicler? What card is Chronicler? Harpy? Okay, Harpy's a good one. Harpy does say revive me, doesn't it? Chronicler of Ruin. We'll look at that after the review. But anyway, okay, so it makes that a little bit less good with the lucky finds, but still, like, Viego comes back with Deathless. Yeah, no, Viego, I mean, he'll have 1 health, but he'll get whatever other stats he had from the thingy. Anyway, I guess that makes this card a little bit less good with Deathless, but still, like, really good for action, just in general. But yeah, so let's go on to the next card then, since I apparently don't know what I'm talking about with that previous one. 4 mana, 3/4 Shadow Isles card, Death Grasp Cultist, which is not a cultist card, by the way. Despite having the word cultist in its name, it's not a cultist card. When I'm summoned, or you summon a Titanic ally, curse the strongest enemy with terror. Now, I didn't include this in the Elder Dragon, like, supporting card section, mainly just because, like, Elder Dragon Shadow Isles seems probably not great for anyone. It's like the same reason why I didn't include the Shurima Burst spell in the Morgana one, is that, like, it might technically be support for those cards, but it's not, like, that, like, good for that. It's not good for that specific strategy. Not saying that the card itself is bad, but, like, a cultist without a cultist word, ridiculous, right? Like, it's a cultist, and it doesn't have cultist as a subtype. Anyway, I'm kind of, like, spinning my wheels here talking about that. When I'm summoned, or you summon a Titanic ally, curse the strongest enemy with terror. So, like, that's interesting, right? It's not, like, insane, because Titanic allies are, like, expensive, so you get this off, like, once a turn. I liked Hollowed Elder Dragon. He flips. You know, I didn't even think about that. Vault of Helia. Is there an 11 mana unit in the game? Because Watcher is 17, right? Is there an 11 mana unit? I can't think of one. Yeah, I don't think there is. Because, I mean, Vault of Helia Elder Dragon would be really funny if you could go from 1 to 12. Just go 1 to 12. I mean, it'd be even more funny if you could go 1 to 17, but there's no way to get Watcher in the deck. But yeah, I think that, like, I don't know, like, you're getting this off once, and it's only giving the strongest enemy -3. Like, it's annoying. It's definitely an annoying card, but I don't think it's, like, stupid broken, you know? Alright, next card. Otrani, Dragon Worshipper. Otrani. 4 mana, 3/3 Targon unit. When I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 2 and gain an extra mana gem next round. So this is kind of giving Targon some more ramp stuff. They have had a few things that are ramp related. Like, there's the blue buff card. A Blue Sentinel, I think. They have this. They're all, like, temporary ramp, which makes sense because you don't want 2 regions to just have the exact same identity with ramp. But, like, it is a cool effect. I think this is fine. I think you could play this in a number of decks. Because then, like, you gotta imagine that this is putting you on 6 mana the next turn, if you play it on curve. And especially if you're against, like, aggro and you just need more mana to spend. Because you could be on turn 5, you could be on Runation mana, right? If you're on Targon Shadow Isles. Given it's Targon, surprised they didn't make this 5 HP. 4 mana, 3/5s. I mean, that's true, too. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I don't think it's bad. I think it's gonna have to compete pretty hard with other ramp cards in the game right now, but it's not bad as it is. Alright, so now we're on to a 3 mana, 4/4 Noxus card, Red Barbed Razor Mace. It is an Overwhelm unit with Nexus Strike, curse your opponent with Ichor, which is the round start, deal 1 to the enemy Nexus. Is this the only thing we've seen that gives that specific curse? I actually don't remember. Have we seen anything else that gives that curse? I don't think so, right? Everything else has been Shackles, Suppression, or the other one. I'm just looking through real quick at my cards. Yeah, there's a few giving Terror. Yeah, this is the only one. I mean, it is very good for, like, an aggro deck, right? Because it's Overwhelm, and it will put a card in your opponent's hand that they have to spend mana on. It is very interesting. Do we think there's any world where you could be on Noxus Bandle and play, like, prank cards with this so that you can just make that thing, like, 5 or 6 mana? Is that... Do we think that's good for Plunder decks, too? How many subs for you to watch this funny TikTok? 15. You give me 15 gift subs, I'll consider watching it. Anyway. I think, like, the only thing I don't like is that it's the only one that gives that. But... And it is also a reptile. You can build a type deck. Yeah, I mean, you could put... I mean... You can put this in Nico decks, right? Interesting. I mean, you wouldn't... I don't think you'd want it in a Nico deck just because it's a reptile on 4. And, like... That deck's already pretty tight on the, like, the late game mana curve, but it is an option. I like the card. It's definitely good for, like, mid-range aggro type decks that are... Well, I guess I should say aggressive mid-range and just straight-up aggro. And that is going to do it for all the units. So we have 3 miscellaneous spells that are in the game. Or that are going to be added to the game, I should say. First one we have is Early Bird, which is a PNZ card. 2 mana, slow speed. Your opponent discards their highest cost card. So it's aloof without playing aloof, basically. There's not a lot of cards that mess with the opponent's hand. But when they are good, they're very annoying. Also, just that artwork is... is amazing. Yeah, it's I don't really know what else to say about this, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It's an interesting card, definitely interesting. When hand disruption is good, it's very toxic. Like Aloof was a very toxic card when it was good. So we'll have to see. I actually don't know if, like, you'd want to main deck this, but there's a lot of cards that can give you random 2-cost cards, like Conchologist. So getting this in that pool, there's probably a good reason to actually get this. Early Bird seems like a fun card to play against all the big creature decks coming out. Yeah. Aloof kept the cancer in check. You'd main deck this for the art alone. That's true, ModMech. Also, how you doing today? Anyway, we have another PNZ card, which is Sugary Snare, an 8-mana slow speed spell. Place an ally on the bottom of your deck to summon the top ally of your deck. Now, if you could get, like, predict units to predict something really good, and it's also ally, so it can summon champs, right? But it's really expensive, and you have to dedicate a lot into making this work. I don't know, man. It's, like, a bit too expensive. Imagine Karma Bandle hand hate with discard and pranks. Sounds broken. Sign me up. It's not worth the mana. Yeah, no. I don't know. Like, you'd have to be on a very specific deck where you have really big units on the board that can stay on the board without your opponent disrupting this combo, and 8 mana to spend. The Snare is thinking this card is good. He oh, I got that. He lowers his base cost, so there's a chance if they get him below 6 with his effect. Oh, that's true too. Florida Man Dan, that's true about, like, Elder Dragon might not always be the most expensive card in your hand if you can actually get him to have cost reduction with his origin. But yeah, it's this card is it's not the worst card I've ever seen. But in this set, it's probably, like, I don't know. Like, I guess if you had a consistent way of, like, predicting the top card of your deck and just having, like, a well-statted unit to, like, that you don't care about never drawing again. Because if you predict, it's going to shuffle the deck. So it being on the bottom of your deck doesn't really matter. But then you're in P&Z Bandle, which the only time that I remember that being a region combination was with Ziggs Talia or, like, Arsenal decks. Both of which, I don't know. Both of which I don't think are, like, I mean, they're not playable in Standard at all, but even now, I think, like, they've both been kind of hit enough times, nerf-wise. Maybe Lurk. But then you're playing Lurk and Bandle. Mana cheat? Yeah, I mean, Bandle ramp, but then, like, you're not really guaranteeing that the top card of your deck is actually, like, good. No, that's the problem, is that, like, there's too many things that have to happen here for this to, like, be a consistent good play. You want to run cards that make Owlcats, because a Spell Shield means it's less likely to make the spell be stopped in some broken units. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, P&Z Shurima, just so you can, like, actually have broken units on top of your deck, but I don't know. I think it's worth, like, experimenting with, like, maybe an Owlcat printer with, like, you know, big expensive boys or something. We could workshop that. But there's one more card left, and it's the one that people have been asking me to look at. That is Empyrean Dance. 9 mana, fast speed Ionia card. Stop an enemy spell, fast speed spell, slow speed spell, or skill. Recall an enemy. And summon the Empyrean. It does a lot. It does. I didn't even know that it recalled a unit at first. Like, when I first looked at this, I didn't know it recalled a unit. It is, yeah, no, if you put this with Haisho, you, if you have this card with Haisho, it's just a free deny that recalls and summons a 7/5 or elusive unit. Can't wait to build a Yumi deck to give allies in hand keyword Chad. I almost said Chads. A very situational card. It's situational, but I think it's, like, a one of. Because also keep in mind, like, the time you'd want to play something like this is if, like, you're playing against, like, a Mordekaiser deck that has that 10 mana free attack card. Not worth 9 mana. Well, so here's 2 things that you need to think about with this, right? The first is that, like, 9 mana for those effects, the Empyrean summon is so random. I mean, it's not random. Look at the art. It's an insane Reggie hit. Yeah, I mean, in, like, a P&Z deck that doesn't really have access to deny and having this, like, at 9 mana, it has some uses. You can play it on turn 6. It is very expensive, but, like, the way that you're playing this is usually on ramp or mana cheat. Like, think of, oh, what's it called? The 7 mana unit that reduces the cost of all spells in your deck by half. Now it's a 5 mana deny, which is, like, 5 mana to recall an enemy and summon a 7/5 elusive unit. Crazy. Sky Singer, yeah. And then, yeah, the new 9-cost unit that lets the first card you play cost 0. The problem is that, like, that situation is situational too, right? Because now you're playing a 9-mana unit that has Spell Shield, which is good. But usually that, like, effect of the 1 per turn thing, you're trying to do, like, proactively. So playing, like, a big unit. This, you'd be, like, reactive. I guess you could just use it as a recall an enemy. Like, you don't have to do the stopping thing. You can just recall an enemy. But it's probably going to be best to play it as a deny. Imagine dropping Turtle, they try to ping Vengeance, and then you hit him with this. Yeah, you just deny the Vengeance. Broken. But yeah, so I think that this card is not that bad, if I'm going to be honest. I think that it's maybe not, like, as ubiquitously included in everything like Deny is, but anyway, that is going to be it for the card. Man, I can't even do this right. That is going to be it for the set review for this new Fates Voyage Beyond. I don't remember what it's called, but thank you so much to everyone who came out to be here for this part of the live stream. This is a live stream, so if you want to catch these, make sure to follow me on Twitter or subscribe here on YouTube. I do stream on both 7 p.m. to 10 or 11, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, Saturday through Tuesday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Make sure that you hit both of those buttons. Make sure to like the video if you're watching this after the fact. Yeah, and I will see you guys next time.